Buenos días, Buenos Aires. Estoy encantado de estar aquí. Voy a hacer mi charla en inglés porque si hablo en español no va a comprender mucho. Pero si tenéis preguntas después de las charlas, me puede preguntar en español y voy a responder en inglés. Vengo de Holanda and I will talk to you about activity-based working and also a bit about activity-based agile, to explain and share the insights that we have learned in all these years working with organizations globally on helping them to create better places to work. And the reason for that is that I've been working for 30 years. And when I started working, the world just started with personal computers, with desktops. There were no desktops at that time. There were mainframes and there were Unix servers. But in 1985, the world started to get some PCs, some desktops. Today, that's unimaginable. Today, we have all technology we need and we want to communicate, to collaborate, and to produce. And that has changed our lives, and that is continuing changing our lives, but it also changed a lot in what we do at work and how do things at work. But most of our offices haven't changed. They're still looking like we're producing all the time in the office, and we're not. We're doing far more in the office. We're collaborating, we're sharing ideas, we're socializing, we're energizing, we're inspiring people. So we need spaces that support that in a far better way. We need leadership style that helps us to thrive, that helps us to get the best out of ourselves. And that's why we need to rethink how to work, where to work, and with who to work. And that creates a lot of opportunities, and we help organizations to look at that, to go on a journey, as we call it, to create a new way of working. And we don't only look at the physical environment, because if you change space, that's fine. But if you don't help to change people's behaviors, if you don't integrate technology in how you use space, you're in fact not having the best solution. And that's what we do. We help organizations to see the connection between the space, the environment, between technology and behaviors. And behaviors includes leadership styles and the way we communicate, the way we collaborate. I've done a project with Lego in London for a hub, a very inspiring project, really, really, very good. Lego is a very inspiring company, and I learned something very good from Lego. At Lego, they said there's no win-win in collaboration. If we want to collaborate better, we have to give up a little bit of ourselves in order to improve the joint experience. If not, we're all doing our things in our way, and that's not the way we are doing things together. So we have to give up a little bit of ourselves to get more out of ourselves, but also to get more out of the collaboration. And that's connected to what we call new ways of working. We've done this around the globe. We're a very small company. We like to be the best. We don't want to be big. And we like to help organizations to do it themselves. Because the biggest point in what we do is about change. And we use the work environment as a trigger, as an enabler for change in organizations. And change only happens if you own it. So we want our clients to own the journey. We want our clients to own the solution, because that's the only way to make it really sustainable. That's what we do. Now, what is activity-based working, in fact? If you look at the momentum you have when you move offices or you renew an office, in fact, you can make a lot of new choices. You can either say, let's go the traditional way, everybody gets an assigned seat, we do what we always did, but we do it with new furniture. Or we go completely wild and we say we don't need an office anymore, we go into the cloud completely and we just meet when we need to meet. Of course, there's a lot of things in between. And the question is, what do you want as an organization with your ways of working? How does it have to contribute to your business goals and drivers, to live your values? And where do you want to position yourself on that scale? To define that and to implement that, you go on a journey to realize it. And it's connected also to the fact that the workplace isn't anymore just a cost factor. If you use the work environment well, it's an inspiring environment where people really thrive. Because architecture and work environment can really create a different life at work for people. but then we have to invest some time to understand, but what is it that we want to achieve? What does it have to support? And activity-based working, the definition of it is what we see here. Activity-based working is not a solution. It's not just copy-paste something you see in another organization. No, it's about defining the best circumstances for people to be able to perform at their best. And that can be different for different people. So, supporting diversity, supporting the fact that we are different, that we have different needs when we do different activities, that is what it's all about. It's giving people the choice to work anywhere, anytime, within boundaries, of course, of roles. It means that we look at the work environment by looking at what activities do people perform and how can we support those activities in the best possible way. It means that we need to look at the technology that enables us then to be more mobile in and outside the office and to communicate. So that is the definition of activity-based working, and it also has a big impact on empowering people to be able to do the things in their way so they can give the best of themselves at work. And that will give them fulfillment, that will give them joy, that will give them motivation, and that will give them productivity. It's based on these three elements. It's based on trust. It was very interesting, the example we just saw about the Nespresso. That's not based on trust. If we apply the Nespresso principle on offices, we get very bad solutions. Because only if you trust people, you can really make them thrive. People need a safe environment to be able to give the best of themselves. A safe environment is created by leadership. A safe environment is created by the way you can operate and communicate with your colleagues. A safe environment is created by the way you make the environment, and the way you make the environment inspiring and attractive. But also by the way you provide people with tools. And you don't say you only get an iPhone or a mobile if you're an exec level or not. Because that has nothing to do with the functionality you need. That has to do with status. If we want to make people really productive, we have to give them the tools that they can choose to make them productive. And that's not connected to hierarchy anymore. Activity-based working is a holistic approach. So, as I said earlier, it's not just about the work environment. You need to look nowadays at the work environment in relation to technology, in relation to behaviors. Our world is changing very fast and it will not stop changing. Technology is evolving all the time, which means that every day there are new tools, new possibilities come to market where we have to rethink what is the impact of that technology for what I'm doing in my personal life and in my work life. And how does it affect how I will use space? Or how does it affect how we collaborate? Or how I'm able to be productive? And that's changing, and therefore the concepts you make when you go to an activity-based way of working are always holistic. A project that is about activity-based working always looks at the three environments and creates solutions for all three of them. The key essence of a way of working is that it's connected to the business. Because in the end, the work environment or the technology you use is there to support whatever business you have and the values you want to live as an organization. Which means that it starts with the business drivers. It starts with your brand. It starts with your values. And there's a question, a big question to the leadership. How do we want to work? What does our way of working have to live up to? That's the first question in all our projects. Because if that's not there, there's no sense of direction. And then how do we know if when we come up with a solution, it's the right solution? We can only know that if we've got a sense of direction. That's what's called the guiding principles for the way of working. And they're translated into guidelines for the physical environment. So what does the physical environment, the work environment has to live up to? Guidelines for technology and guidelines for behavioral and leadership style. How do we do things around here? What are our rules of engagement? And if we have good conversation about that, then we have a clear direction, and then we can start thinking about, so what are solutions that are helping us to live this? What does the work environment then have to deliver to live those guiding principles? And in order then to get to solutions, we use activities as the base element of analysis. So instead of in traditional offices saying everybody has a desk, and we have 100 people, we'll make 100 individual work desks, we'll make some meeting rooms and some social space. No, this time we do it completely differently. We will look at what are people actually doing when they work in the office. Because in the office we do things alone and we do things together. But currently, today, you've got two choices. Either you have your individual desk to do those activities, or you have meeting rooms. And sometimes you have some social space. But that's the choice you have. Whereas each of those activities, in terms of functional needs, has complete different characteristics. You cannot focus in open plan. Some people can because it's in their personality, but most people can't. They need some more quiet spaces to focus. So why don't we provide that? Why don't we provide people choice to sit in different spaces depending on what they need to do and with who they need to do it? That's the basic idea behind activity-based working. Give people that choice and create facilities that support each activity to the best of its abilities. And then you get an activity-based environment where in fact per activity you have more than one setting that supports that. And you create a variety of work settings which you group differently in a building where people can choose from. So people become mobile when they're in the office and they can walk around and go to the places they need to sit with whoever they need to sit with to work. And that's a very good thing because most of our work is becoming more complex. We have to collaborate more. There's far more interaction not only within departments but between departments. It's one of the biggest challenges organizations face is how do we improve collaboration between departments, how we minimize the silos so that people keep on thinking within broader spectrums than just within the work they do for their department. Because the client doesn't look at the department, the client looks at the company and what the company delivers. And it's the same at home. So it's not new for us. We just unlearned it in the organization because when we go to the office for the first time, this is your desk. And you're supposed to do everything at that desk because I tell you that it's the best place for you to do it, which is of course not true. So this principle is about empowering people to make that choice themselves and giving them the possibilities to have the right facilities depending on what they need to do. It's based on data. It's not based on just good luck. It's based on first getting a good view, scan on the organization. So how do we spend our time? How much time do we spend on different activities? What is the level of focus we need when we perform things? Because I could very well work good and effectively in an open space and focus, while somebody else, a different personality, could never get something done in open plan, but needs in a closed room. Not because of his level, but just because of how he is. So let's give that person that room if we know that. The studies lead to something like this, an activity pattern which shows the blue, how much time people spend on individual activities, the dark blue is more focused, and the light blue is where people say, I'm doing work alone, but I can be interrupted. And the other ones are collaborative activities. But there are a lot of different types of collaboration. And each type of collaboration, in fact, needs different settings. Because if I want to, for example, create a document with one other person together, then I'm in a duo. I'm just collaborating with two people. I need a screen and I need some privacy because we're focusing to create something in 2 hours. But if I had to catch up with my manager as a conversation, I just need a dialogue. I can have an informal setting where I can just sit together and we can have good dialogue. So there's different settings for different activities. And it leads to an environment where, in fact, if you have 10 people in an environment, normally in traditional offices, you would have 10 individual desks. But we don't need those. Utilization studies around the world in all our projects show that less than 50% of the individual desks are used on an average. Less than 50%. The peak, so the maximum occupation of individual desks at any given time for all our projects is not above 80%. It in fact tells us that 20% of what we've made is not being used at all. So we don't provide the right type of settings for people to work. And we can change that by lowering the number of individual seats, but making the number of collaboration seats far higher. So far more emphasis on informal collaboration and social seating. And that's also what distinguishes the high-performance workplaces from the low-performance workplaces. Of course, this will lead to a big change. So you can't do this if you don't look at, so what does it imply for how we work and for me as a person? What do I need to unlearn? Which habits that I have today are not useful anymore, and I need to replace them by new habits. And themes that change in this kind of way of working are on this screen. And it will be different for different organizations, depending on their aspirations, but also for different people. Because for some people it might be very easy to be paperless, for other people it might be very difficult. And this is not about, let's say, the paperless office. This is not about not working with paper. This is just saying that let's make the paper an instrument to work with, but not a storage. We can store everything digitally. We can work with paper, but when we've used it, we just throw it away. So we can work any place, any time, when we want to, because we can connect to the internet or to the systems, get to the data and work with it. But paper will still be used. That's fine. For the technology, it means that we need to rethink our infrastructure, because if people become more mobile in the office and also outside the office, working from home is just one of the places where you could do some work. But then we have to rethink what are the tools we give people to be able to do so. What are the skills we give people and we help them with to use them in the right way? And what are the rules of engagement so that we really collaborate and share things? So the three elements, technology, the workplace, and the behavioral change, are always combined. And it gives a lot of benefits. Now, I haven't got a lot of slides here about all the benefits, because I could show you about 50 slides, but there is a lot of benefits in working in a different way. It takes an effort, because it's not an easy journey. But all the clients that has gone on this journey, and there's more than 300 globally we've worked with, all report a really increase in productivity, an increase in employee motivation, a decrease in costs, and an increase in organizational culture. And this is from a survey from a company called Lhoest. They do they have a tool for independent workplace performance surveys. And they have made an analysis of a database of 300,000 plus respondents, where they see the correlation between the type of current workplace people have and how satisfied they are in relation to these 5 topics. And we can see the activity-based line is the green line on top. I didn't define it. I'm very happy with it, but I didn't define it. But it's the best performing workplace type in relation to the other ones, according to their data. So that's about activity-based working. A bit positioning. A lot of people talk about activity-based working, but are doing hot desking. There's a fundamental difference between hot desking and activity-based working. Hot desking just means that instead of a traditional workplace, you are going to share that workplace because you see that not everybody uses his desk. So in fact, you say we are going to share our individual desks. That's great from a cost perspective and efficiency. That's very bad from a productivity perspective and from motivation perspective. Another type of workplace is where what we call the more collaborative workplace, where you have individual seats, and on top of that you have a lot of collaboration seats. But still you have an assigned one-to-one individual seats. And a number of companies like Google had this in the past few years. They're changing at the moment, but they could afford it, and they had a lot of surplus in space, but a lot of empty space as well. And activity-based working, in fact, combines those two. Now, I've spoken a bit on activity-based working, and I see I have 1 minute left, so that's not a lot. But activity-based working, as I said, is not a solution. And it's not the same as agile working. It's not the same as hot desking. It is a journey to create the solution that fits your organization and your people according to your values, your goals, and aspirations. And the journey is the most important. On Agile, I'm going to talk a little bit, but I'll go a bit faster because I don't have a lot of time. But Agile is a new phenomenon we see a lot, well, not very new, but quite new, which emerged from IT companies, where they said we have to speed up our development and we have to react quicker to changes. So they defined a mindset, an attitude, which they defined in something called the Agile Manifesto, where they say we have to create small teams that are completely empowered to take their own decisions, work in short sprint times, so in weeks or 2 weeks, and deliver products in every 2 weeks, and then recycle, rethink, and so on, to be able to adapt to changes quickly. And these agile way of working has a number of what they call ceremonies and artifacts, which should be a tick in the box if you are really working in an agile way. All other definitions of agile work are more things like hot desking, but that's a different definition of agile. In agile, the team proximity is very key, because the idea is that if you see each other all the time, you'll have more immediate interactions and discussions, and the speed of development will be better, but also the quality of sharing thought. And the visual wall where you share the information on should be close to you, so you're triggered by it all the time. Now, the most organizations that apply agile... 5 is small. That's fine. That's great. That's a lot more than I hoped for. But a lot
Solo doy buenas noticias.
A lot of agile solutions, organizations have implemented agile. The way they do it is, in fact, the way like the old factories. They make big benches for the agile teams. All around there are whiteboards, and that's the way they think that agile should be supported, because of this proximity and this connection to the visual board. We've done studies in Canada with a number of agile teams, and in-depth studies with them as well. And we redefined for them what is the activity pattern that could be applied for agile teams. And that's the one you see here. So a number of them, like individual focus and individual process, are the same type of activities as people do in non-agile environments. But the other ones, the one-on-one focus, ad hoc team meetings, the team ceremonies and so on, are specific and have specific characteristics for agile teams. And the interesting thing is that also for agile teams, we see that part of the work they do alone and part of it is collaborative. Now, for the work they do alone, especially the dark blue, sitting on a bench with a lot of people will not help, does not make them productive. If you have a one-on-one focus, sitting on that bench will not make you productive. So they will go elsewhere. So in fact, agile teams are far better supported if you provide them a more activity-based experience, whilst at the same time ensuring that there is proximity with the team and proximity to the visual wall, because that's part of their core way of working. And that's what we combined in activity-based agile, where the benefits and the key things on agile, which is about the team, which is about the team collaboration and the proximity and the immediacy of activity, is combined with, in fact, providing a variety of choice to work, but also the mobility to move around easily and connect to others. And it means that we combine, in fact, the strengths of agile, which is about the team, with the strengths of activity-based working, which is very much about integration between teams and supporting the individual. And that's what we call activity-based agile, and that leads to a number of benefits, as we see on this slide. And this is also my last slide. I thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the speech.
Muchas gracias, Luis.